This is the story of Cloelia. Cloelia was a young woman in Rome when Rome was under siege from the Etruscans. The Etruscans, led by King Porsenna, had camped on a hill west of Rome, on the other side of the Tiber River. The Tiber was a river that surrounded Rome like a moat. It was about 100 yards wide and had freezing waters and strong currents. Now, after a Roman assassin had attempted to kill King Porsenna, but killed King Porsenna's secretary by mistake, Porsenna agreed to a truce on the condition that the Romans give him 10 girls and 10 boys as hostages. One of the girls was a young woman named Cloelia. Now, it's not known whether Cloelia volunteered to be a hostage or if she was volunteered by someone else. In either case, she and her friends are going to be enslaved by the Etruscan king. Cloelia, unenthused by the prospect of a life of enslavement, persuaded the Etruscans to allow her and the other female hostages to bathe in the river. Feigning feminine modesty, she convinced the soldiers to withdraw to a seemly distance and avert their eyes. Once unsupervised, she dove into the river, urging the other girls to follow her. Followed by her fellow hostages, she began to swim through the freezing waters and heavy currents back towards Rome. The Etruscans, alerted to the escape by the sound of 10 girls swimming for their lives, rushed to the riverbank. However, averse to the frigid water and claiming to be weighed down by their armor, they did not swim after her. Instead, they shot arrows and spears at the girls, all of which missed. Cloelia and the other girls came ashore at Rome and were embraced by their loving families. Meanwhile, the Etruscan guards, fearing for their lives, reported the escape to Porsenna, who at first was enraged, but quickly came to admire the courage and daring of Cloelia and the other girls. Porsenna still regarded the treaty between the Romans and Etruscans as broken by Cloelia. However, he agreed that he would withdraw his siege on the condition that the Romans sent Cloelia back across the river, this time in a boat, so that he could praise her publicly, promising to restore her safe and sound to her family. Porsenna not only praised her in front of the guards who had let her escape, but rewarded her bravery by allowing her to choose 10 hostages to be returned to Rome. Abandoning all of her fellow female hostages who had not swum across the Tiber, she chose to free all the young boys who had been sent to the Etruscans alongside her. She chose these boys because they were the most vulnerable to abuse from the Etruscans. Friendly relations were thus restored between the Romans and Etruscans, who ended their siege of Rome, and the Romans honored Cloelia's courage by setting up a statue of her on horseback in the Via Sacra. Cloelia exemplifies the Roman virtue of courage. Livy says that she took inspiration from the courage of the assassin who had mistakenly killed the secretary of Porsenna, and that Cloelia demonstrated a greater courage than any woman had ever shown before. When Cloelia was told that she was going to be a hostage, she unwillingly but voluntarily accepted being a hostage. However, she did not accept a life of enslavement. She was willing to give up freedom for the sake of Rome, but she was also willing to risk death for the sake of freedom. She not only exemplified courage, but a love of liberty that was very Roman. Now, from a modern perspective, it was most interesting to me that Porsenna actually called off his siege after Cloelia had broken their treaty. One would expect the Etruscans to retaliate in full force. However, Porsenna wanted to publicly praise and reward the courage of one of his enemies. Rather than dehumanizing or demonizing Cloelia and the Romans, he recognized their virtue and humanity.